I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. I'm currently deployed overseas, halfway around the world, counting down the days until I can finally come home. When I first left, my wife and I promised each other that distance wouldn't break us. We said we'd call as often as possible, send little messages, keep each other grounded. First, it worked. She'd stay up late just to talk to me, tell me about her day, laugh at my bad attempts at jokes through the shaky Wi-Fi. But over the months, I've noticed things slipping. Calls got shorter, messages got fewer. Her words became clipped, dismissive, like she was checking a box instead of talking to her husband. I keep telling myself deployment is hard for both of us. Maybe she's tired. Maybe life back home feels heavier than she expected. But I can't shake this gnawing feeling that something's wrong. Something she isn't telling me. It started small, almost too small to notice. A friend from back home, a guy I've known since high school, messaged me one night. He asked casually how I was holding up, then hesitated before saying, "Man, don't take this the wrong way, but your wife's been out a lot lately. More than usual." I brushed it off at first. She's allowed to go out. She's not supposed to sit at home like some lonely widow just because I'm deployed. But the way he worded it stuck with me, like he wanted to say more but was afraid to cross a line. A few days later, another friend dropped a comment during a group chat. Saw her at that new bar downtown. Looked like she was having fun. No details, no context. Just that. When I asked her about it during our next call, she brushed it off with a laugh. "What? I'm not allowed to go out with the girls. You're paranoid, babe." Except her laugh sounded hollow, almost forced. The kind of laugh people use when they're covering something up. Then came the social media stuff. She used to tag me in everything. Old photos of us. Miss you posts, corny little memes. That stopped. Instead, I started noticing weird gaps. She'd post group pictures where she was all dressed up, smiling, but the captions were vague. And sometimes I'd see comments from guys I didn't recognize. Nothing blatant, just enough to make my stomach twist. The worst part? I don't even have the ability to check much. Out here, Wi-Fi is a luxury, and most of my time is spent on duty. So every time I do get a connection, I feel like I'm walking into an ambush, scrolling through what little I can load, trying to read between the lines of a life I'm no longer part of. I keep telling myself not to overthink it. Distance makes everything look worse than it is. But the seed is planted now. Every call, every message. I can't help but listen for cracks in her voice, little slips in her story. And I think I just found one. It was during one of our rare video calls. The connection was bad that night, the screen freezing every few seconds, but just seeing her face still felt like a lifeline. She looked good, almost too good. Makeup done, hair curled, a dress I hadn't seen before. I joked, "Wow, you're looking fancy for a call with your husband." She smirked but didn't answer right away. When the picture unfroze again, she was adjusting her camera and muttered something under her breath. I couldn't catch it all, but it sounded like, "He'll be here soon." I froze. "He?" I asked her what she said, and she rolled her eyes like I was being ridiculous. I said the heat like the heater. It's acting up. You misheard. Her voice was sharp, defensive. That wasn't her. She used to be patient when I misunderstood things through the lag. Later in the call, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it too quickly, like she couldn't stop herself. I saw just a flash of a name across the screen. Definitely a guy's name, not one I recognized. She tilted the phone face down and forced a smile, changing the subject like nothing had happened. I wanted to confront her right there, but what was I supposed to do? Start a fight over a bad connection, thousands of miles away, with my unit in the next room? I swallowed it down. After we hung up, I stared at the blank screen for a long time. Out here, the silence after a call is the worst. It's not just the silence of a room. It's the silence of an entire ocean between you. And in that silence, all I could hear was the way she said, "He'll be here soon." I told myself maybe I really did mishear her. Maybe it was nothing. But deep down, I knew that was the first real crack in the story she was trying to sell me. A week after that strange call, I got a message on Facebook from my buddy back home. He kept it short, Man, I didn't want to get involved, but you need to see this. Attached were 3 blurry photos taken on someone's phone. They were of her, my wife, at a restaurant I knew we used to go to together. Except she wasn't alone. She was sitting across from a guy, mid-20s, clean-cut, the kind of guy who looked like he lived in the gym. In one photo, he had his hand across the table, covering hers. My heart dropped into my stomach. I stared at those pictures for hours, zooming in like maybe I'd find some clue that would explain it away. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe they were old. Maybe the angle made it look worse than it was. But there was no mistaking it. That was her, and that was intimacy. When I finally asked her about it, I tried to stay calm. I told her someone mentioned seeing her out, and I wanted to know if it was true. She immediately got cold. Wow, so now my every move is on trial? I can't even grab dinner without it turning into some interrogation. She didn't deny it. She just deflected, angry, like I had no right to even ask. Then, the next day, I checked her Instagram during a break. She had posted a story, just a quick clip of her drink at a bar. But in the reflection of the glass, if you looked closely, you could see a man's arm resting on the table. Not mine. Not anyone I knew. I kept replaying it, my chest tightening each time. Out here, I don't have the luxury of knocking on her door, of showing up and demanding answers. All I have are scraps, photos, stories, rumors, and the endless echo of my own doubts. And those scraps were painting a picture I didn't want to believe. I couldn't keep swallowing it anymore. After seeing those photos and that Instagram story, I waited until I had a solid connection and called her. No small talk, no warm-up. I just asked outright, "Who is he?" The silence on the other end was deafening. She blinked, shifted in her chair, then gave me this tired sigh, like I was some annoying coworker instead of her husband thousands of miles away. "You're losing it, babe," she said flatly. "There's no he. You're imagining things because you're lonely over there." I pushed harder. I told her about the photos, about what people had been saying. Her face tightened instantly. "So now you're trusting gossip and creeps with cameras over me? You think I'd really do that to you?" The thing is, she didn't say it isn't true. She didn't say I would never cheat on you. She only attacked the sources, flipped the blame, made it sound like the problem was me daring to question her. At one point, I said, "I saw his hand on yours." She laughed, but it wasn't her real laugh. It was sharp, ugly. "Do you hear yourself? That's pathetic." Her words cut deep. I'm out here sleeping in a bunk, eating rations, sweating through 12-hour shifts, and the one person I thought I could lean on is telling me I'm pathetic. The call ended with her saying she didn't want to keep talking if I was going to accuse her of nonsense. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there staring at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. Thousands of miles from home, surrounded by guys laughing and joking in the next room, and I'd never felt more alone. After that call, I shut my laptop and just sat there in the dark, my bunk creaking under me every time I shifted. The air felt heavier than usual, like I was carrying more than just my gear. It was the first time in my life that silence felt violent, like it was pressing in on my ears, reminding me I had no way of fixing any of this from where I was. The guys in my unit were laughing in the common room, swapping stories, playing cards. Normally, I'd join them, but that night I couldn't. I didn't want anyone to see me like this, like a hollowed-out version of myself. My chest burned with a mix of rage and grief, but I had no outlet. No door to slam, no friend to grab a drink with, no chance to just drive somewhere and clear my head. Just me, a cot, and the echo of her words. That's pathetic. I tried to write her a letter, thinking maybe if I put my feelings on paper, it would make sense. I wrote about how much I missed her, how hard this was, how I needed her to be my anchor. Halfway through, the words turned bitter. My pen dug so hard into the page I nearly tore through it. I ended up crumpling the whole thing and tossing it aside. Out here, we don't get the luxury of breaking down. Every day starts early, ends late, and in between is nothing but exhaustion. I kept telling myself to bury it, to focus on the mission, but her face kept flashing in my head. Smiling at some stranger across a table, her phone lighting up with names I didn't recognize, her voice cold and detached on the other end of the line. That's when it really hit me. I could be out here risking my life while back home, she was building a new one without me. And the worst part? There was nothing I could do but wait. About 2 weeks later, I managed to catch her on another video call. She looked distracted from the start, barely making eye contact with the camera, scrolling on her phone while I was talking. I tried to joke about it, but she just gave me this tired shrug. Halfway through the call, someone's voice came through on her end. A man's voice, deep, close, like he was right there in the same room. I froze. She scrambled, fumbling to mute her mic, then laughed nervously. "Oh, that's just the TV. Don't freak out." But the angle of her camera shifted, just for a second, and I swear I saw the shadow of someone walking behind her. Broad shoulders, moving fast like he didn't want to be seen. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I asked her point blank, "Who's there?" She rolled her eyes and said I was paranoid again, that I needed to stop inventing drama. Then she leaned forward, filling the frame of the camera, blocking out the background. "You're thousands of miles away," she said flatly. "Don't make this harder than it already is." That sentence replayed in my head for hours afterward. She could have said I love you, or you're wrong, or I'm here for you. But instead, she basically admitted it without admitting it. Don't make this harder. When the call ended, I just sat there staring at the frozen last frame of her face on my screen. And in that moment, I realized the woman I thought I married wasn't really mine anymore. Not long after that call, 2 of my closest friends back home finally reached a breaking point. They'd been dropping hints for weeks, but now their messages came blunt, almost angry, like they couldn't keep pretending anymore. One of them sent me a long text that started with, "Man, I'm sorry, but you need to hear this straight." He said she wasn't just going out a lot. She had practically moved into a different life, showing up at bars with the same guy, leaving with him, being seen together in broad daylight, holding hands, acting like a couple. Then came the pictures, clearer this time. My wife sitting on the hood of his car, laughing with her head thrown back the way she used to with me. Another one of them walking into her apartment together, groceries in his arms. Those weren't moments you could explain away as just friends. Those were domestic, lived-in, intimate. The other friend didn't even send pictures, just voice messages. In one of them, his voice cracked with guilt. "I can't look at you straight anymore, man." I saw her kiss him. "I'm sorry. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing, but it's not. She's with him. She's not even hiding it that well." Reading those words, listening to those recordings, I felt something in me collapse. Out here, the worst thing is feeling powerless. And now I wasn't just powerless in combat, I was powerless in my own marriage. I couldn't drive over and demand the truth. I couldn't confront the guy face to face. All I could do was sit thousands of miles away while the woman I loved dismantled our life piece by piece. I didn't even cry. I just went numb. The kind of numb that feels like your own skin doesn't fit right anymore. And yet, even with the proof in my hands, part of me still wanted to hear it from her. After the photos and the voice messages, I couldn't keep the storm inside anymore. The next time I had a break, I sat down at my desk and wrote her a letter. A real one, not just an email. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I put the weight of my heart on paper, it would hit her differently than another frozen video call. I wrote everything. I told her I knew, that people had seen her, that I'd been sent pictures, that the lies weren't adding up anymore. I didn't scream on the page, though. I begged. I told her I loved her still, that I just wanted the truth, that she didn't have to keep pretending for my sake. Weeks went by, and when her reply finally came, it was short. Barely a page. No acknowledgement of the photos, no mention of the man. Just vague words like, "You're overthinking things. Please focus on your work and stop listening to people who don't know what's really going on." That letter gutted me. Not because she denied it, but because she didn't even bother denying it properly. It was like she couldn't be bothered to put in the effort anymore. I sent another message, more direct. "I know about him. I know what you're doing. Just tell me the truth so I can stop going insane out here." Her reply came hours later, just one line. "I don't want to fight with you right now." That was it. That was her response to the wreckage of our marriage. I stared at that message until the words blurred. And then I realized something that chilled me deeper than anything else. She wasn't fighting because she didn't care enough to fight. After her last message, I felt like I was trapped inside my own head. Every small sound in the barracks, boots clanging, radios buzzing, guys laughing, felt like a reminder of how far away I was from the life I thought I had. Anger and grief tangled together, leaving me raw. I would lie awake at night, staring at the dark ceiling, replaying her voice, the photos, the little slips on video calls. I imagined what she was doing right now, laughing with him, touching him the way she used to touch me. I tried to tell myself to let it go, to focus on the mission, but the images wouldn't stop coming. I even started snapping at my friends here who had nothing to do with it. One guy jokingly nudged me during chow, and I nearly lashed out. All I could feel was betrayal. It wasn't just that she was unfaithful. It was the way she had pulled the rug out from under me while I was fighting thousands of miles away, the helplessness of knowing I couldn't protect my heart or my marriage. Letters, calls, messages, they all felt meaningless now. Every attempt to reach her ended in a cold wall. And the hardest part? I couldn't even confront her in person. I couldn't look her in the eye and demand answers. I had no control, no way to reclaim the life that had been ours. Some nights I cried quietly in my bunk, letting the silence of the camp hold me while I tried to figure out how to survive emotionally. Others, I paced, feeling my chest tighten, imagining confronting her face to face and screaming everything I wanted to say. But every time, reality hit. I was trapped in a country halfway around the world, stuck in a uniform, surrounded by men who didn't understand, while the woman I loved was rewriting our life without me. And somewhere in the mix of anger and despair, a small, bitter part of me realized I had to make a decision before I went completely mad. By the time my deployment was halfway over, I knew I couldn't keep floating in this limbo. Every day, the weight of betrayal pressed harder, and I realized something. I had a choice to make, whether I liked it or not. One option was to hold on, return home, and try to salvage what remained of our marriage. Maybe confrontation in person would give her a chance to explain, maybe even repair the cracks. But deep down, I knew that would require her honesty, a thing she had shown no inclination to give. The other option was to let go, to prepare myself to walk away from someone who had already walked away from me emotionally, to face the truth that loyalty, distance, and time weren't enough when the other person had already chosen a different path. I spent hours writing pros and cons in my journal, pacing the small tent that had become my temporary home. The pros of staying were buried under memories and love I couldn't forget. The cons of leaving were like jagged rocks cutting at my chest. The shame, the loneliness, the life we had built together gone. Every decision felt like a knife twisting in me. But eventually a clarity emerged. The betrayal wasn't just a temporary mistake. It was a pattern. She wasn't hiding her actions. She was hiding from me. And the distance that once seemed like a temporary obstacle had only exposed the truth. Our relationship was no longer mutual. I didn't want to act rashly. I didn't want to return home only to be blindsided by more lies. But I realized that once I came back, I would have to confront her one final time and make my choice known. Because I couldn't live in this state of uncertainty forever. The plane touched down, and for the first time in months, I was back in my own country. I walked through the airport with a tight knot in my stomach, rehearsing every possible scenario. Part of me wanted to see her, hear her apologize, and somehow rebuild what had been broken. Another part of me wanted to see her and feel nothing at all, just walk away and never look back. When I arrived at our front door, it felt unreal. The house smelled the same, but everything else had changed. And then she appeared in the hallway, smiling nervously, like nothing had happened. I didn't speak at first. I just studied her, searching for the woman I thought I knew. And maybe I found a trace of her in her eyes, but it was faint, buried under defensiveness and guilt, or maybe indifference. I finally said it, voice steady but low. I know everything. The photos, the calls, the messages. I know who he is. She froze for a moment, then sighed, almost annoyed. So now what? You've been gone for months. And you think this is the time to accuse me again? I realized then that this wasn't going to be about logic or explanations. It was about honesty or the lack of it. I gave you every chance to tell me the truth. You didn't. You chose him over me, over us. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then finally whispered, I didn't think you'd ever find out. And just like that, the final piece clicked into place. The woman I had trusted, who had once been my anchor, had abandoned our marriage emotionally long before I returned. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just felt the weight lift slightly as I made a decision. I wouldn't let betrayal dictate my life any longer. I would walk away, but with my head held high. The hours after the confrontation were surreal. I packed a small bag and slept on a friend's couch that first night, unable to face the empty bedroom that had once been ours. Every corner of the house reminded me of her. The dishes she left in the sink, the faint scent of her perfume, the photos of us that used to feel comforting now feeling like knives. I called my closest friends from back home, the ones who had sent me the first warnings, and just listened. No one tried to sugarcoat it anymore. Hearing them confirm what I already knew somehow made it real, necessary even. The next days were filled with legal consultations, paperwork, and hard conversations. I told her I needed space, that I couldn't continue living under the same roof with someone who had already chosen another life. She reacted with the same dismissive detachment that had haunted our calls during my deployment. No tears, no apologies, just cold compliance. Emotionally, I was a wreck. Some moments, I felt relief, like a heavy chain had finally been removed from my chest. Other moments, loneliness hit me like a freight train. I had spent months imagining her betrayal, replaying every slip, every suspicious text, and now seeing it in real life. Being forced to navigate the aftermath was a different kind of pain. Yet through the grief and anger, I held on to one fragile thought. I deserved honesty, and I deserved someone willing to fight for us. I realized that the distance hadn't broken our relationship. It had revealed its true state. And that truth, however painful, gave me the power to reclaim my life. Months passed, and life slowly began to settle into a new rhythm. The house felt emptier, quieter, but in that emptiness, I started to feel something I hadn't in a long time: clarity. I filled my days with work, workouts, and reconnecting with friends who had supported me throughout the deployment and the heartbreak that followed. Sometimes, late at night, I'd catch myself thinking about her. The memories stung, especially the small, ordinary ones. The lazy Sunday mornings, the way she used to laugh at my terrible jokes. But those memories were just that, memories. They didn't dictate my present or my future. I also reflected on the distance itself. Deployment had been brutal, but it wasn't what broke us. It was honesty or the lack of it. Loyalty can't survive on promises alone, especially when one person is willing to give it fully and the other isn't. The ocean between us had been irrelevant compared to the emotional gap that had grown even before I left. I learned to forgive myself for the loneliness I felt, for the anger, for the helplessness. I also learned that betrayal, though devastating, could be a catalyst. It forced me to see who I really was, what I deserved, and how far I was willing to go to protect my own heart. By the time I started to feel at peace, I knew one thing. Loyalty is sacred, but it must be mutual. And distance, no matter how great, can never justify deceit. Sitting alone one evening, I realized how much I had changed. The anger had softened, the betrayal still lingered like a faint scar, but I could finally breathe without the constant ache in my chest. I thought about the woman I had loved so deeply, the promises we'd made, the life we'd built, or at least what I thought we had built. I understood now that love, even at its strongest, isn't enough when it's not reciprocated. Loyalty and devotion are fragile things, and distance, though it can test them, doesn't create cracks on its own. It only exposes what's already there. I didn't hate her, not truly. I felt a profound sadness, a mourning for what I thought we were, for the years invested, for the trust shattered. But I also felt a quiet resolve. My life wasn't over because she had chosen another path. My heart wasn't broken beyond repair. It had been tested, and I had survived. I still think about her sometimes. A photo flashes across my mind, a memory of laughter or a gentle touch. But those thoughts no longer wound me. They remind me that I was capable of loving deeply, of giving my all, and of facing the worst pain without losing myself. In the end, deployment, distance, and betrayal taught me something I'll carry forever. Loyalty is sacred, love is powerful, but self-respect is non-negotiable. And even when the heart aches, even when the nights are long and lonely, there is always the possibility of rebuilding, of moving forward, and of finding a life that honors the person you are, no matter what others do.